I used to really struggle with ADHD. Struggling with ADHD and depression is really hard. Really, really hard. I just wanted to have a really open conversation, just in case you're feeling alone and you feel your ADHD is impossible to manage and you're also going through depression. I also have gone through it. I just want you to know that the battle is feeling lost right now and you're struggling and you feel like there's no way out, whether you have kids and you're just stuck financially because of your ADHD, because you're not able to follow through on progressing in your life. You feel like you have this Ferrari in your garage and no key, and it's really frustrating and you feel trapped. I've been there. I felt like a left-handed person in a right-handed world. The way I like to describe a lot of my life was really just like I was in a world that was like a theme park, and I was the only one not invited. And it really hurt to believe that, but I couldn't help it because I felt so different from the world and I didn't really value myself. I know at times it feels like you are out of control, but you have everything in your power to be in control, but it never comes out. Like you just can't seem to grasp onto it. My ADHD has affected everything, my finances, and how that affects everything. My relationships, I don't text back friends much, and I've had social anxiety for a long time. I wanted this to be uplifting for people with ADHD to hear someone who has gone through depression and ADHD management issues really horribly. There isn't really a point where you stop learning and where I stop learning about myself and how to be better. Like I learned so much more from people around me with ADHD than myself. I'm not depressed right now, but I can relate, and it feels like it's just a door I can open at any point, meet you in. And I know ADHD is hard. I know it's really, really hard because you feel like you have the world at your fingertips. If you could just manage your executive functioning, if you could just focus, not get distracted, and somehow hyper focus on the things that actually move the needle instead of wasting your time on busy work or caring about your finances, being productive with your patterns and habits and structure. You feel like you're always this close to your goals. And when you finally get there, you feel like the goalpost just moves, like you never catch it. But most of the time, it feels like I don't know, it's like halfway stopping yourself because you guilt trip yourself before you're, I light turned off, but I don't care. It's like you guilt trip yourself before you even give a chance to even see what you're made of. And everyone around you just tries to tell you, try harder. You read books like Eat the Frog, where you tackle the biggest thing first thing in the morning, and all it does is not work at all. You get burnt out before you even barely even put effort in, and you're already freaking out about it and realizing, oh my gosh, I'm proving myself right because this doesn't work. It's not working. There must be something wrong with me. Am I really that far gone? Am I really that broken where I can't even do the simplest thing that everyone around me can seem to do? You just prove yourself right even more. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you're going to have to face that frustration where you just feel like this left-handed person in a right-handed world that tries to force you to be right-handed when you're really good at being left-handed, but it's not valued because it's not what's expected. So you set your expectations extremely high because some small part of you deep down wants to please everybody, but also you mostly just know that you can do so much more. If you could just, that's stupid saying, if you could just, if I could just blank, like I've had that in my head so many times. If I could just get past procrastinating on my tasks until the very last second, if I could just focus on this thing without getting distracted, if I could just jump into this big task, if I could just push myself to try starting a business, or it goes on, and then it follows with, I would be blank. I'd be making so much more money. I'd be able to take care of my kids. I'd be able to feel free in my life and not guilt trip myself about not finishing my stupid to-do list, which never really happens because the to-do list is like almost meant to be infinite. It makes you feel really alone, really alone, and you feel like you're the only person in existence that's ever had something like this, because there's not really many people in the world that you've met that are struggling like you. Your teachers tell you you're dumb even though you do well in school, or maybe you don't. You cannot tell someone with ADHD that they can't do something if their eyes are locked on it. I don't care if I risk my life. I'm going to do it if I believe it. Even if it's out of the wrong order at the wrong time, I'm just so driven and nothing can turn me around. And that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. I've filled so much of my time with what I believed was the right thing to do at the right time, but I didn't care if it was the answer. I just wanted to feel like I was accomplishing things. And then when I eventually finished them, I realized, crap, I messed up somehow, whether I did it at the wrong time and it ended up kicking me back in the butt again, or it was just the wrong thing to do, or I didn't have money and I was really struggling working 4 different freelance jobs just to get by. And then at the end of it, you find out, oh crap, if I had money, I could have just paid for ads for my business, or I could have gone all out on this one other thing, or you don't think things through. And it's just so frustrating because you're willing to give every ounce of effort possible. You wonder what emotional regulation even is, and then you find out once you start losing your cool really easily with certain things that really don't have much to do with anyone else, but everything to do with yourself. I just want you to know, if you are struggling with that, I relate so hard. One thing that kept me in depression, calling myself someone who is depressed. And once I stopped doing that, it became a lot easier to see myself as, no, I'm not a depressed person. I am a person going through the stages of depression, and that's okay, because my body is reacting to something that doesn't feel right. And I stopped guilt tripping myself over that. I mean, it got really, really hard before. It's like I was training myself every day without realizing it to see myself as a depressed person, as an unworthy person, as someone who's not valuable. I didn't realize how strong habits really were until that hit me. I talked to God and he would just kind of not answer until one day where he finally did. But ever since that moment, I feel very different. I feel like someone who has the world at my fingertips, because if my life can't get any worse, then what do I have to lose? I just went all out on my habits changing. And I focused on that and I realized how powerful habits are. And there's this scientific fact that habits make up 90% of our lives, of our day. I figured if I could retrain my brain to see things differently and switch the bad habits out for good ones, the way I talk about myself, the way I have self-deprecating humor, and the way I would be training myself before to look at myself as I was socially anxious, struggling horribly with anxiety and getting panic attacks, not feeling good enough even to eat out with my friends. I would train myself instead. I switched that out with training myself to just give instead. I took the focus off of me and I put it onto them in a way where I was just giving and being of service. Because when you come from a place of service and just not wanting anything in return, that's when you don't put focus on yourself. And when you don't, it's when you feel abundant, because only someone abundant can have value to give. It's funny because we all have that. It's just the habits we have that's keeping us from seeing that we could be that way. I know that right now, if you're watching this because you struggle with your ADHD and depression, I just wanted to tell you the things that helped me get started. I'm not a doctor, I'm yada, 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 everything in the disclaimer. But what I've seen help and what has helped me was just changing my habits. First thing, just like if everything feels intimidating, which it does, and that's okay, because it's like a big thing to think, oh, I have to get out of this pain where I feel actually strangely good. It's not a good feeling, but it's like being a stage of depression in your life, you almost feel like this sucked in feeling, like you're getting sucked into this hole in your heart. It doesn't feel good. It's probably where the term "it sucks" comes from. And you're just like addicted to it. You're attracted to it. You can't stop trying to keep yourself in it. But just know that for me, it wasn't like any different from any other habit. It was just realizing, if I could change one thing today, just work on myself in one way that will get me out of this, and I do that every day, eventually I will be out of this. And you know what? Once I stopped identifying myself as a depressed person, I made space. It's like I threw it away and made space for good habits, for see myself as just a better character, as someone that had more value. And it stuck to me for a long time to feel like I wasn't valuable. So just know that, at least for me, a lot of the reason I felt like I didn't have value to give to the world was because I kept telling that to myself. You have to stop telling yourself that. You're just on autopilot. You don't actually believe what you're saying to yourself. You don't even know what you're really saying. You're just used to saying it. And you're convincing yourself to believe it because that's all you're saying to yourself. And you don't want to be in pain. You want to get out of it. Do something doable that moves you 1% forward every day. Helped me. I want to come off so badly. Like I've got my life in order. When I have clients, I give my everything to make sure that they know I'm in the trenches with them and I'm going to help them. Give them the tools to get out of it. And I want you to know if you're waiting for a point in your life where you don't have problems anymore, nobody lives that life. Not one person in history ever has or ever will have no problems. They just change form. So you need to change too. You got to adapt. You're not alone and it will be okay. You don't have to reach your goal today or even tomorrow, the next day, next month, whatever. It doesn't matter because you set your expectations so high if you think that way that if you don't reach it, you just fall past those expectations. But you can figure out how to use the tools. And that's what I believe in is if you have the tools and you just experiment every day and find a way to increase your chances of success in some way every day, consistently, just something, anything, you will eventually be where you want to be. You will have the tools, you will have experience, and you will have found your way out. The thing that was keeping me stuck in the bad process and the bad results was that I was taking the exact steps it took to be where I was. And to get out of that, I had to take different steps because the version of me that was living where I could take on these problems when they show up. He thinks differently than I do. He has different everything, ways of being. He has different desires. He's a different person, but he's still me. And I guess I just constantly in this never-ending battle of wanting to do whatever I can to be that person. And it's crazy because it keeps changing and growing, and I can't catch up to him, but I'm trying all the time. But I just wanted you to know you are valuable. You were born with infinite value, and you have nothing to lose. If you fall, and you will, because I have, everybody has and will, you get back up. You cannot defeat the person who gets back up. Tries new things. I had stories in my mind where I believed certain things about myself. And my life didn't change until I was rewriting a new story. And then I would do everything it took to live that story out. So I just wanted to tell you it's not too late, no matter how old you are, no matter your finances, no matter your lack of opportunities, because opportunities are everywhere. But if you have these lenses on where you don't know what to do and you're waiting for this right moment, those lenses are just inefficient. They're not going to help. They're designed to keep you in the comfort zone, somewhere comfortable that actually is slowly like tricking you into believing you're getting somewhere, but you're being held back even more and you're stuck. And it's not going to change. You've got to, and you can, and you will. I believe in you. I wouldn't say this stuff if I didn't live it for many years. I had no money, I had no connections, I had very little anything to put my confidence in. But that's the point, isn't it? Like, look into what you have now. Those things aren't going to get you where you want to be because that person's different than you. That person experienced it and figured out what works and what doesn't. Don't hold yourself back by staying in the safe zone. It doesn't do you any favors. It's designed to keep you comfortable, and things that are designed to keep you comfortable keep you right where you are. If you want change, you have to do something that the version of you that keeps you where you are would never do. What would the next level version of you do? How would they speak about themselves? Like, close your eyes and visualize it. How do they see problems? What do they do? How do they react? Where do they live? How are they living differently than you? What do they walk like? What do they talk like? Imagine them talking to people differently. Imagine them talking to themselves in the mirror. differently? What are their values that you don't have yet? What are your values right now that you should give up to make space for those values? What thoughts do they have in their minds about themselves? How do they think about obstacles in their way differently than you? You see, there is no difference between you and them except habits. 90% of their habits are different from yours, but it only takes 1%, not even, more like 0.00001. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just do what's doable, and if you do it every day, you'll be there faster than you know it. But you also have to be there at the right timing. Your character has to be ready. If you had what you wanted right now, could you really hold that with who you are right now? You need to be ready by starting and by constantly working on yourself non-stop. You deserve it. You're worthy of it. You've got it. The future you right now is waiting for you to pass the baton to you. They're holding it in their hand right now, ready to hand it to you. Just start walking. How I met my wife. I was so nervous. She was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. But I knew when I saw her that I asked myself, would I regret not at least talking to this person? And I said immediately, yes, I would regret it. And I looked down at my feet that very second and I said, all I have to do is take one step. And I counted from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I just stepped. I didn't think. And I remember saying to myself, oh my gosh, I'm actually walking towards her right now. This is happening. Every moment I have grown tremendously started with that moment. When is that moment for you? Like this video, leave a comment below about if you're going to do this right now. Just say, I'm ready. And if you want to share your experience in the comments, I'm happy to read it. Thank you. I'm here for you. Genuinely, you're not alone. There is a way out. I promise you. It's what I do for a living. So if you do want coaching or just want to talk, happy to help. There's so much more of a chance, so many more odds in your favor than you even possibly know. It's just sitting there. If you could just know what to do, right? Thank you for listening. Later, neighbors. It's my saying, so I'm just going to say it in every video. And by the way, I say that in the end of all my videos because I want you to know that I'm right next door. I'm right here for you. Knock on my door anytime.